Hi everyone, Mitch here, and I want you to look at this. What is this? Is it a Rubik's Cube? It certainly looks like a Rubik's Cube. Now, I want to let you know that I think Rubik's Cubes are really cool. So, I mean, it's not unreasonable to think that this is a Rubik's Cube. And that, well, you see it's actually on a computer, so you think, oh, this is a Rubik's Cube simulator. It's a very special Rubik's Cube simulator. This is called Magic Cube 4D because it simulates a Rubik's Cube in 4 dimensions. Well, you say this looks like a 3-dimensional Rubik's Cube, and I bet it even turns like a 3-dimensional Rubik's Cube, and it does. But not always. You see, this is the weird thing. It does mind-bending, incomprehensible things. And it does other mind-bending, incomprehensible things. Isn't that mind-bending and incomprehensible? Now, for a better view of what's going on here, I'm just playing with the settings here. You can unshrink this one. The setting is called face shrink. It's probably not showing up very well because, my stupid flip phone camera. But I mean this computer thing that I'm using has a camera, but I'm not going to try and record on it because I won't have access to it all the time, and then you'll get used to me trying to do it well, trying to have good recordings and it not working forever. So, yeah. That is a blown up view. So when you're turning a face of that Rubik's Cube I showed you, you're actually doing that. Kind of. Let me slow the twist speed down a little bit. You're actually doing that. And when you do this mind-bending move that I was doing, you can kind of see what's going on there. What you do is you follow this purple face. You see it's in a 3 cycle with the red there, and then that blue, watch it again, is moving down to the light blue. And you see the light blue is up there for some reason. And that's also weird. Now, this cube in the middle is fun. You can do lots of interesting things with that cube in the middle, because as you notice, when you turn the face, of the outer cube, the cube in the middle stays the same, or rather, it moves. It just doesn't do anything as it moves. It's turning like everything else. It's just not doing anything. Now, you can also turn pretty much any cube you click on here, you can turn. And so you can get mind-bending turns like that. But I'm about to show you that these mind-bending turns that you think are actually not mind-bending turns. You see this one, where I had you follow the purple, it's probably better to follow the red. Not actually mind-bending. However, this is a good opportunity to show you what actually happens to that face in the middle. You see it's got a purple face on it now. The colors don't really work on this flip phone, I'm sorry. But you see now it's moved over to that side. And so if we continue rotating it, it eventually comes back. that's interesting the way that in the middle moves. Okay, also, this cube does something else. When you press Control and you click on a cubie, so I'm pressing my cursor on the innermost cubie of the orange block, kind of, where it's not highlighted. Now I'm pressing Control there. Now you see when I press Control, it makes the noise, makes the highlighting noise. So now, if we click, it brings that orange block into the center, and the red block has moved to the side. And now, if you turn any of these sides, the orange block is just moved around itself, rather than being changed. Like the red has its side moved over to the purple now, and now the purple is on red, and now it's back. Now you can still do those other moves. The way you do that is by clicking one of the centers on the sides, and that you can sort of see rotates any of the outer cubes around like that. I wish I had 3 hands so I could get that animation all synced up. But you can kind of see what's going on. And of course, you've got mind-bending turns that you can still do. There's always going to be mind-bending turns, guys. Just get over it. Now, there is a better reason to get over it, because you can, there's a setting over here, Control-click rotates by face or by cubie. And you can change it from by face to by cubie. I have it set on by cubie, which means that you can put a piece other than the core of any of these blocks in the center. So let's try putting a center in the center. Not the core, not the most inner part, but the center. Okay. Now that looks like it's halfway between, and these cubes are suspended in this weird shape. Maybe a bit better to do it like that. And you can see, if you press this thing, that looks fairly normal. Now, so does that. But now, these edge turns that were before mind-bending, now it makes sense because you're just switching those two and you're switching those two, right? Makes a lot more sense. And we can shrink the faces together, my good old buddy face shrink. And as before, when we had a core in the center, this made the cube look like a 3x3. Now it looks like a prism thing or something. I don't even know what this is. But you see now the edges turn and the faces turn. Or that face turns, and it all sort of makes more sense. And of course you can mix it up like this a little bit. But I don't want to, because there's so much more to show you guys. It's also cool. Now there's also still mind-bending moves, but they're, again, slightly less mind-bending. Just follow the red there. You see the red is now there. Now the red has disappeared, but the blue is back. And of course the yellow is there, so now the yellow has disappeared, now the red is back, and we're back. And there's also, whoa, that's still a mind-bending move there. What is that? Why are you doing that? Mind-bending move. That was a very mind-bending move. I don't even know what that was. Now let's try something else. Let's try putting an edge in the center. So we just sort of and you don't have to do this, sort of blow the faces apart again, and find an edge piece of any one of these cube-looking things, and Control-click. Ooh, look, now you can only see 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, now finally, the corner twist does not seem like an incomprehensible move, and some of the edge twists seem to make sense as well. And it makes even more sense if you shrink the faces back together, so shrink the faces back together like that. And this looks like a shard prism or something. I don't know what this shape is called. It looks really cool though. However, it also looks like it would look even cooler with some more contrast. So I'm going to sort of Control-click a different edge. And now we got some more contrast that's showing better. It's showing up better on my flip phone. By the way, this side is yellow here. This one is yellow. At least it's trying to be. It's succeeding pretty well on the computer, I'll tell you that. Oh, well. Now, like I said, the corner rotation seems to make more sense. You can follow the yellow around. It's clearly moving in a 3-cycle, like that. It's clearly moving in a 3-cycle, like that. You can just, like, spin it with your fingers, but not really. Now, these edges also seem to turn predictably. Like in the, I don't know, I'm going to call that a square frisbee. Like in the square frisbee configuration. Except now, when you turn any center, it has that semi-weird look, and you can't get it to look any less weird. See, follow the yellow, now the red's back. So there's always like a side missing from that. And it gets worse if you try and turn one of the centers from there, because now you've got 2 sides missing. And so you can't really follow any one. Ooh, that is so mind-bending. And then, of course, you've got turns that are still mind-bending. But what that is just turning a different edge. That is just, what I'm just doing is I'm just turning that edge. And it looks weird because it will. Because something will always look weird. There's one more piece we can put in the center. We've put a core in the center that looked like a cube. We've put a center in the center that looked like a square frisbee or something. We've put an edge in the center and got this shard thing. It looks pretty neat. I mean, if I had one of these things, if I had a puzzle that was actually shaped like this in real life, and someone broke into my house, I'd throw it at their head. I'd totally throw this at someone's head if they were going to kill me. Anyway, let's just put that thought aside, shall we, for future reference. All right. Now, Control-clicking one of the corners gives us this shape, and if you shrink the faces out again, you can see here there are only 4 cubes, and you can rotate at that is, you see, the problem here is there are 8 different colors on this simulator, so they put 3 blues in. You've got sort of your normal colors, except orange looks more like brown, which actually makes it look better. I mean, I know orange is my least favorite color on a Rubik's Cube. I don't know about you. Anyway, so when you turn the outer corners, it seems to make sense because you can follow the green there. And I'm just going to really quickly change this to a different corner in the center because I hate having 2 blues on there. Alright, that's better. Purple and blue look kind of different. Now, if we shrink the faces back together, you can see that this actually forms a tetrahedron. You can even see all the faces at once when it's in full tetrahedron form. Now, edge turns, of course, still kind of make sense, but kind of also look weird. This corner, I'm clicking that corner in the middle there. That looks hopeless. Now, you can see that this does turn, and it actually behaves kind of like the puzzle called a Jing's Pyraminx, which is where you have, oh, never mind, look it up. Maybe I'll put a link in the description, but I'll probably forget, just saying. Anyway, Jing's Pyraminx, look it up, or I will for you, something. But anyway, this sort of, with only the corners turning, it looks like a Pyraminx. Only you've got these corner pieces here, or these pieces made from 3 different corners that for some reason highlight at the same time. They, I lost my train of thought there. Sorry. This is not going well. This is not going well at all. Sorry. I'll just look a Jing's Pyraminx up for you right now. Alright, so there's a Jing's Pyraminx. I don't have an interactive view or anything. But basically, the corners turn, so these corners will turn, and they move the edges and centers with them. And so the centers are not the constants, the corners are the constants, and the edges get moved around fairly predictably, and the centers just get dragged around wherever, and it's really hard to do if you're used to solving a Pyraminx that doesn't even have those centers. It's a challenge for Pyraminx solvers because you have to worry about the centers. However, there is another shape mod, and I forget what it's called, but it's super easy, where the edges are connected to the corners, except they're split halfway through, and the centers are bigger, and it's basically just one of these, but only the centers matter, so you can get used to permuting the centers around. It's a very basic puzzle. I don't recommend you buy it or anything, but that's just a thing. And yeah, the shape is called a tetrahedron. I'll do a video on shapes eventually when I get around to it. Yeah, 4 triangles form tetrahedron. And never mind. Back to the video. So yours are not Jing's Pyraminx. I say not because it isn't a Jing's Pyraminx. It's a 2-dimensional representation of a 3-dimensional representation. It's a 2-dimensional rendering of a 3-dimensional representation of a 4-dimensional thing, apparently. Yeah, there's lots of deeper questions into how that's even possible and whether this is what they say it is. But I'm going to not worry about that because I just think it looks so cool. Now this program, like I said, is called Magic Cube 4D. And there's lots of cool things you can do with it. So if you go up to puzzle here, there's lots of options. Whoa, look at that options. Look at all those options. Now, let's look at a simplex. And I'm just going to pull up the 3x3 for each because it's the easiest. Simplex is a 4-dimensional Pyraminx. Now I'm going to get into some cuber lingo. I'm going to be throwing out some cuber terms there, so you've got to get into cubing to know what I mean. So it's a four-dimensional pyraminx, and the problem with four-dimensional pyraminxes is that to turn them in a way that makes the remotest sense, you have to click things that don't exist. Yeah, you can't really manipulate this the way you can manipulate the hypercube. It just, like, you can unshrink the faces from each other and sort of see what's going on. And when you click that piece there, now the rotations suddenly make sense again. Because follow the green, or follow any of them really. And that sort of makes sense. But now there's another thing you can do, which is, of course, to shrink the stickers. And the standard settings are more like that, which for me makes it harder to envision what's really going on, or what I want to believe is going on. The problem with representing something that can't be accurately shown is that you're going to introduce a level of subjectivity into the whole business. So now if we go back up to the puzzle menu here, that was a simplex. Now, you can't really read it on this thing, but there's this thing called triangular duoprism. Let's just get the 3x3 of that. And you can see it appears to be made of cubes and triangular prisms. So like a pyraminx side, but square edges. And this turns in normal, predictable ways, the sides and the edges both. Kind of looks like one of those things. And of course, you also get mind-bending turns from clicking on weird things, because the edges and everything turns. And then you can also turn the bit in the center. And like with the hypercube, the one in the center doesn't appear to move, but it is getting scrambled to the degree that the stuff around here is being scrambled. Because the reality of this is, the pieces, when you have highlight by QB selected, the cubies are, when it makes a little sound that I hope is showing up, because I've got the earbud jammed to the mic picker upper of this flip phone here, it highlights two different pieces. And I can't get it to show up now, but, or two or three different pieces, depending on what type of piece it is. And those all show up as, and those are actually all three the same piece, is the thing. Now, a problem you run into on triangular things like this is some of these pieces, I'll put the cursor on them and they won't light up. And I think that's because those pieces can't turn, because there's some weird symmetry thing going on. Alright. Now you've got the hypercube. That's your friendly neighborhood Rubik's Cube blown out into 4 dimensions. Looks really cool. Has a bunch of different... You can have different pieces in the center and it'll look different. Pentagonal duoprism. 3x3. Looks like a pentagonal prism with cubes on the sides. And you can shrink the faces together. Shrink the faces together like that. Please let me shrink the faces together. Yes, like this. And don't let them overlap, because weird things happen when they overlap. Even when they don't overlap, you see that, you see that, you see that. Don't see that. That's ugly. We don't want to see that. We don't want to see that. There's just a glitch. It glitches and does that. This is a very, very easy to get program, but it does do weird things. Now, of course, you can make weird turns. You can make understandable turns. Make turns. You can make understandable cube or like side turns. And then you can do this other thing, which is very weird. You can control click on different things. And behold, this behemoth, this monster. I know that it's actually pronounced behemoth, and I just said behemoth for no reason. But I like saying behemoth. It's funner than saying behemoth. And this turns, those edges sort of look like they're turning like normally, except you get glitches where there's other, apart from the red randomly appearing there, it is turning normally. I don't know, and same with that. You can mix stuff up between those. See how the purple has gotten all the way over there. And then it looks like you can turn these pentagons too still, so those have that kind of weird property like that. And then this, you'd expect to be able to turn this edge, but if you look, there's a pentagon on one side and square on the other, so you really can't. But you can turn that center, which is madness. And of course you can turn these cube centers, which is also sort of madness. And can you turn these corners? You cannot turn these corners because the pentagon would have to go onto a cube face. And we don't allow weird shape-shifting. Only Oscar Van Deventer is allowed to do that. And it's awesome. But so there is the pentagonal duoprism. Not a lot you can do with it. I should probably move through these faster, shouldn't I? Okay, hexagonal duoprism. So 6 sides. Looks like a hexagon with squares on the side. Turns like a hexagon with squares on the side. You see, very nice. And you can turn edges, and they do weird things. And you can control click, and this does all the weird things. Now you can see it's the same prism thing again. It's the same splinter thingy again, except now there are 3. And so you've got sort of this little cube system here. It looks like you can solve. And of course the other turns are mind bending, and of course you can turn hexagons and cubes, and there's weird things. And heptagonal duoprism looks like the same thing, but with 7 sides. That's what it looks like when you put an edge in the center. Ooh, when you put an edge in the center, it looks like a tetrahedron. No, what I was going to do is I was going to put a corner in the center, wasn't I? I was trying to put some kind of corner in the center. No. Okay. Oh, yeah, never mind. That is the same one. It's just that this weird green thing is actually that face. It's just so awkwardly, because they're trying to fit that many, and then it just doesn't work at the higher levels. And then same thing for octagonal, nonagonal, decagonal, and 100agonal. I'm going to make it load this. 100agonal prism. You see, it's loading. It's having a big problem loading, and I'm having a big problem manipulating it in space. View scale up. No, wait, no, view scale down. I'll be able to see this. Whoa. Whoa. It's another. Okay. Ooh, you can see how they all go 1 to the side. Ooh, I got them back without having to do 100 turns. This is the 100agonal. This is 100agonal duoprism. It's made of 100agons and cubes on the sides, and it is extremely finicky, and I do not recommend you try to solve this ever, because it's just so crazy. Now there's this other thing. After this in the list, you get just numbers, and so there's the 3 there's other things. This is a I can only assume this is a triangular duo. This one wouldn't be a, no, because, unshrink the faces, change the view scale. Okay, so this is a, what do you call it? There was a name for this. This is a triangular prism. Triangular prism. It's made entirely from triangular prisms, so each side turns the same way. And it's just the orientation onto the other sides that changes. And you can put other things in the center, and it can look really weird, like anything. Except with this, when you shrink the faces together, it actually just looks like a standard triangular prism cube, which moves. Apart from the weird olding there, it moves in recognizable patterns, and that's cool. Then, of course, there's the 3x5. That is the 3 in brackets for the 5 in brackets. And this looks exactly the same, but it is actually, but the sides are actually pentagonal prisms, and so that's weird. And there's a bunch of other things, and there's decagonals. And there's the dodecahedral prism. 3x3 of that takes a bit longer to load. Now this has the pentagonal prisms on the sides and megaminx in the center. So if you're familiar with the megaminx, you will be in awe of this, and you should, because it's huge and it's crazy. And when you shrink the faces farther, closer together, it looks more and more like a megaminx, and you can probably solve it like a megaminx if you hand scramble it, like just turning the centers like this. You can make, of course, you can't actually make edge turns, that's weird, or corner turns. But now with all these, if you shrink the stickers a lot, there's a setting called sticker shrink. Everything looks worse when you do sticker shrink. It makes it so much harder to observe what's going on. Like, it looks cooler as an animation, but not better, I think. It's just my opinion. Unshrink the faces a lot. And you can put a center in the center. I'm just control-clicking that. And you can see there's actually 2 megaminxes. There's the one that was in the center, and there was the one that was in the outside. Because there's always going to be one face you don't see, unless you're in a weird configuration where there's like 2 or 3 you don't see. And here, this looks like a claw. I'm not sure what this looks like. It looks weird. I'm just going to stick with that. Let's shrink the faces apart a bit. Stickers looking better there. Yeah, I really can't fathom. Those turns kind of make sense, but not really. Those turns also kind of make sense, but not really. That turn. Ooh, you can turn the megaminx side faces. And those, the edges, I mean, those make the most sense. You can turn these edges, and they also make sense. Alright. And then you've got hyperminx big. And this takes ages to load, but I've got to do it. It doesn't take ages to load. It takes a significant amount of time to load. You can't see the progress there because my phone. It's loading, guys. Calculating possible twists, it says. Length equals 3. Ooh, You can have it in tetrahedron mode, and it looks awesome. This is what it looks like. This is what it can look. One thing it can look like. Now if we shrink the stickers a little bit, we can see a I'm going to control click the inside of one of these. Just look at the way that twists. Hear that? I think I broke it. Hang on, no, I didn't break it. I have made it what it was always meant to be. I want to be Megaminx. It's like a Megaminx, but crazy. See that? Okay, I don't know. I don't even know. That didn't work at all. Maybe I should talk about something that's fun to talk about. Anyway, despite the terrible things I've just done to it, Magic Cube 4D is a great puzzle program, and I highly recommend you download it. I'll put a link in the description, a bunch of links, and yeah. Like if somehow you did, comment if you didn't, and subscribe again if you have nothing better to do, or you don't want to keep searching me up for ages. I mean, like when I didn't have a YouTube account, and I wanted to watch the same person twice, I had to just search their channel up and see what they had, what new things they had all the times, and it was annoying. And now that I have an account, I can just whatever. Goodbye. This has gone on long enough.